If you know your GVM and GCM from your elbow, you will know how important it is to take weight out of a car and get it into a trailer when you're doing a big lap. Now, a little tinny, an outboard, a trailer and a boat loader, that can be 200, 250 kilos of weight that people typically carry on the car. Putting it on top of a hybrid takes that out of your GVM constraints and puts it into the massive payload of this trailer. Now this trailer with a 3.5 ton ATM has a tier weight of only 2,500 kilos. So putting that 250 kilos up top doesn't really affect your day-to-day use. Most hybrids are overloaded before you even pack your clothes, but this one carries a boat on the roof. So what does that mean for payload, towing and real-world touring? The VH16B is a 16-foot pop-top hybrid from Vision RV, built for serious off-road touring and uniquely optioned with a boat loader on the roof. This is for the serious traveller, the couple who wants to chase Barra off the Cape or tour year-round without giving up comfort. It sits in the middle of Vision's lineup with their compact VH14 and the larger VH18 above it. Pricing for the pop top starts at around 127 grand, but with a boat loader, outboard setup and extras you see here, expect it to land at around 158 grand depending on options. But the real story with hybrids are the numbers, it's their payload. So let's get into some specs and figure out exactly what you can carry when you've got a boat on the top. So the VH16B has a tier weight or an empty weight of 2,500 kilos and a maximum load capacity or weight or ATM of 3,500 kilos, giving it a massive 1,000 kilo payload. But, and it's a big but, that is before you take into account the weight of the boat and all of the boating accessories. Our test unit has a 3.2 meter Stacer tinny on top with a fold-up trailer and a 6 horsepower Yamaha 4-stroke. Now the rack itself weighs probably around 80 kilos, so just in that gear you're looking at 150 to 200 kilos. And you can put a larger boat on. I've heard of a 4 meter tinny fitting up top. Fill up the near 300 litres of water tanks and all of a sudden your payload is down to around 550 kilos. Now that has to cover your food, your gear, or your personal belongings. Anyone who's doing a lap of the country will appreciate that. It's actually a decent number. The van's overall length is 7.52 metres and its width is only 2.2 metres. The travel height though, with the boat on top, is over 3 metres. So it is a compact hybrid, but with the tinny on top, you have to keep an eye where you're going, particularly looking out for low branches and low bridges. Now all of that capacity, that payload and the strength to hold the tinny on top comes down to some clever engineering. So let's get into the construction. So it certainly looks tough with its Raptor coating and big 33-inch tyres, but to live up to its expectation of being a proper off-roader is what's under the skin that matters. The walls and roof are made of 30mm German-engineered composite panels, a sandwich panel of fiberglass over XPS foam that's strong, light and completely timber-free. And the floor, a single-piece 30mm honeycomb composite panel bonded into the shell. It's one of the most rigid caravan bodies in the class, and it should be one of the most durable. The whole structure is fixed together using aluminium extrusions and industrial grade adhesives to form a true monocoque shell. That means the body itself carries structural load, not just the chassis, helping cut weight without compromising strength. The shell is dropped onto a steel chassis measuring 150 by 50 by 3.5 millimeters. But unlike earlier Vision builds, this one's now fabricated offshore in China, then hot dip galvanized and finished locally. The change in origin keeps costs down, but the design remains Vision's own. It's laser cut, braced in all the right places, and raised high at the rear for maximum clearance. This is not just a cookie cutter copycat from the same factory as almost every other hybrid on the road. This is unique to Vision and built the way they want it. So it's light, it's tough, and it's built for punishment. But what's underneath the body and under that chassis that gives it such a significant payload and capability? Let's check out the suspension. The VH16 rides on Vision's own design trailing arm suspension. Now this one's fitted with Boss airbags at each corner as well as twin Old Man Emu shock absorbers. Now what I like about the airbags is that you can raise and lower the van depending on the terrain, or you can level it easily at camp with a remote. All Visions use disc brakes, not drums. Stopping power, that's handled by ventilated disc brakes on all 4 wheels, driven by a Hydrostar electric over hydraulic system. It's a serious bit of kit that gives you smooth controlled braking no matter the load. So it's built to take the serious stuff. It's built to go far off-road. But how easy is it to set up camp once you've arrived? So when you pull up a camp, using a hybrid could be as easy as just getting in the door and going to sleep. That's simple to use. But you want to get the best out of it, you want to set it up fully. So starting at the front, we've got a DO35 hitch, easily the best in the business, and a vertical arc jockey wheel, not a swing away style. I prefer this style, they're easy to use. In this front toolbox, we've got twin LPG tanks, plus you've got all your valving and switching for your water tanks and water pumps, and on both sides, a shower rose. I reckon that's a great idea for just washing your feet off after a big day. Fire rack, this space in here is designed to take a Weber barbecue, and there's a bayonet fitting underneath it for feeding it gas. This slide out drawer will take a 96 litre fridge freezer, and above it you've got your gauges for your water tanks, which you can also read inside. This pull-out sink is a really good design. It's got a really long rose on it, so if you're washing up outside, easy. Again, you could use it to wash something down. This is the main kitchen. So this drop-down bench here can be used for doing prep work on, which I really like. And you've got a 2-burner pull-out stove. Now, if you wanted to, you could option on more battery power and replace the gas with induction, up to you. Importantly, you'll look here, everything is aluminium. There is no wood in this. This is durable, powder coated, it's really clever stuff. Now, we haven't taken the awning out, it's a little too windy today to pull that out, but I know from these farmers you get decent shade. All right, let's pop the top and head inside. So at the press of a button, I've raised the roof. Now, importantly, there is more than 2 meters of headroom inside here, which is great for tall people like me. But it also means you get a lot of light and a lot of air through here. Now, this van is not fitted with a diesel heater. I would option one on if I was going into any cooler climates, just because the canvas will let a bit of heat out. Now, in the rear, there is a shower over toilet ensuite and a 150 litre fridge. The cabinetry is all laser cut aluminium, powder coated and paired with solid surface bench tops. And the leather is marine grade, so it's easy to keep clean and it's durable. And of course, everything in here completely timber free. Now, we've got an induction cooktop inside. Now, that is an optional cooktop. Now, most people are going to be cooking outside on the twin burner we saw earlier. You can also option to have induction outside. Storage is impressive, wide drawers, deep lockers, and a full-length bench opposite the lounge. The slide-out dining table lives under the bed, out of the way when not in use, but it's big enough for meals or when you need to pull out the laptop. The internal shower is spacious with proper drainage and a decent towel storage area inside, while the composting toilet is tucked into the driver's side, plumbed to a separate urine tank, around 14 litres total, and it's ventilated with a 12-volt fan and a charcoal filter. There's no cassette to dump every 3 days at a stinky, smelly dump point. These types of toilets, these composting toilets, are so much better if you're on the road for a long time. Keeping the inside of the van cool on a hot summer's day is a My Coolman air conditioner. Now, that can run off the battery system, so let's check it out. It all starts with a quality Victron power management system. Now, there's a huge amount of solar on the roof, a massive battery underneath, and a really powerful inverter, which will run the AC and induction cooking. But for how long? We'll do some sums. It starts with a 460 amp hour Arizon lithium battery feeding through a 3000 watt inverter that also doubles as your AC charger. There are DC-DC chargers to take power from your car and twin MPPT solar controllers, and up top 880 watts of rooftop solar. Now, let's say you're heading out bush and you've got a bad weather forecast, or you're having problems with your solar. Just how long will that 460 amp hour battery last? Run the aircon for 2 to 3 hours in the afternoon heat, and that'll draw about 90 to 120 amp hours depending on conditions. Add 20 minutes of induction cooking at full power and you'll use another 30 odd amp hours. Stack it all up and you're looking at a daily draw of around 200 to 250 amp hours, including the pumps, lights and fridges. So even without solar, you're still set for a good couple of days running off a fully charged single battery. But what happens when the solar kicks back in? Once you've taken the boat off the top, in Queensland summer conditions, you'll typically see 50 to 55 amps per hour during peak sun, giving you maybe 300 to 350 amp hours across a full day. So that's nearly enough to fully recharge your battery in a typical sunny Queensland day. So it's actually water you'll probably run out of first, and with around 300 litres on board, expect 5 to 10 days depending how carefully you use it. Now to tow all of this, you're going to need a decent rig because this is a capable van. So today we've got an MUX X-Terrain. Let's go have a look. So we're towing the Vision VH16 with an MUX X-Terrain. Now this is their top of the line, most luxurious, most well-spec'd 7-seat people mover. Now it's a popular car for towing because it has a headline 3.5 ton tow capacity, and that engine, super reliable and super efficient. But the reality of towing a van like this at full weight means that some of the sums don't necessarily add up. So let's look at some detail. In this setup, because the ball weight transfers to the vehicle, you're using 2,445 kilos of the MUX's GVM, and there's 3,250 kilos left over on the axles of the trailer, which is its GTM. That gives a total combined mass of 5,695 kilos. That's the van at full weight and the MUX with a ball weight on board. That leaves only 205 kilos for payload in the MUX. Now that has to take into account fuel, passengers and their gear. So realistically, if you're towing a van like this at its full ATM with a 350 kilo ball weight, the MUX might not quite cut it. If you were towing the same van at the same weight with an Ineos Grenadier Quartermaster, you'd have around 500 kilos of payload left, more than double what the MUX gives you. With a Ford Ranger V6, you'd have about 330 kilos of usable payload. Still tight, but a lot more breathing room for fuel, people, gear, without tipping over that GCM. So that gives you a pretty clear idea of why these headline 3.5 ton tow ratings can be a bit misleading for real world use. Now, if you were to buy a Vision, what sort of warranty and support will you get? Vision backs its product with a 7-year warranty. Now 2 of that is directly through Vision and 5 through Australian Warranty Network, a third-party warranty provider. Now I had a good look at the limitations. There are effectively none. You can take your Vision off-road, you can take it on tracks, but understand that if you abuse or misuse it, you won't get a fix for free. That said, the Vision team are serious tourers and the support network is growing. So if something does go wrong off-grid, you've got a decent chance of getting it sorted without dragging the van back to base. And the electrics, plumbing and suspension systems are all easily accessible and serviceable, and Vision provides documentation and support via their growing network. Now Vision's still a relatively small brand. They've delivered around 700 trailers so far, but their reputation is growing fast, and resale for well-optioned hybrids like this has held strong even in a softening market. To maintain your warranty, you will have to go through scheduled servicing. That's no surprise and very common these days. So, what about its value proposition? You can get into a Vision hybrid 16-footer for around 120, 125 grand with a couple of options. But what you see behind me comes in at just under $158,000. Now that does include the boat, the 6 horsepower Yami, the boat loader and bits and pieces. That price point is right about where you'll get a Zone RV Expedition trailer, another proudly Queensland built and quality trailer. But with the Zone, you won't get the boat loader and you won't get quite as much power on board. Now you could step down to a Cub, another proud Australian company, with their hybrids, but they have a much lower ATM and a much smaller power system as standard, although you will save quite a bit of money. So for me, I think at around 158 grand, when you take into account the boat system and the larger power system and how well built this is with its massive payload, 158 grand is actually pretty decent. The Vision 16 is a hybrid built and designed for couples who want to go that bit further. And with its slightly compact size compared to a full-size caravan, it'll do that too. Plus you have that 1,000 kilo payload that affords you the opportunity to do something like put a boat on top and take some weight off your tow vehicle. Or you can load it up further and stay out longer. Now the way this is built, this is a multi-generational van. There is no wood in this van, so you'll be rot-free, trouble-free. This is the sort of van to take for a lap and know you can do it again or you have confidence the next owner can do it themselves too.